Long ago, in the vibrant village of Umadam, where the earth was rich and the rivers sang songs to the sky, there lived a woman named Uju. Her skin was the color of ripened kola nut, and her beauty was whispered across distant markets. Yet beauty was no shield against sorrow. Uju was the second wife of Ozoemena, a respected hunter and farmer. His first wife, Chika, was a woman whose heart had turned bitter with years. When Uju entered the household, younger and more radiant, Chika's jealousy burned like wildfire. Uju longed for a child. Night after night, she wept at the shrine of the gods, her tears soaking the earth. Chinik, give me a child, even if I must give my life for it, she cried. But the moon passed and no child came. Chika mocked her cruelly, calling her Nwani and Wuro Ndabi, barren woman. She would pour ash at Uju's doorstep, a curse in their customs. Still, Uju bore her torment with bowed head and silent prayers. The old storyteller leans on his carved staff, voice deep and rich. It was a day the village of Umadam would not soon forget. The drums began before the morning mist had cleared, rolling out like thunder, calling all to the square. The marriage of Uju, the second wife of Chief Obina, was a spectacle of colors, laughter, and overflowing calabashes of palm wine. Women adorned in wrappers of the finest ankara danced with calabashes balanced expertly on their heads. The men, strong and proud, paraded with staffs adorned in cowries and feathers. Even the children wore beads and new sandals, running barefoot in the dust as the village square pulsed with joy. At the center of it all was Uju, the bride, a vision in red and gold. Her laughter rang out like silver bells. Her skin glowed under the African sun, her head crowned with a halo of coral beads. She moved through the crowd like a queen blessed by the gods. But not all hearts rejoiced. Beneath the thatched shade of a baobab tree sat Chika, Obina's first wife, her face stiff with jealousy. Her children sulked beside her, their faces stormy. Chika's hands, rough from years of work, gripped her wrapper until the fabric bunched. "Look at her," she hissed to no one in particular, flaunting herself as if she owns the earth. Her heart, once kind, had grown twisted by the slow drip of envy. For 3 long years after her grand wedding, Uju's womb remained silent. No cries of newborns graced her hut. She prayed at the shrines, fasted by the river, and sang to the moon. She bathed in sacred waters and knelt before the wise woman, begging for a blessing. Yet silence. Days turned into months. Months bled into years. Still the gods withheld their blessing. The village women gossiped as they pounded yam. "A tree that bears no fruit is fit only for firewood," they said with wicked smiles. Chika fed these fires of gossip, her heart blackened with jealousy. Each market day she found new ways to humiliate Uju, making her carry heavy baskets until her back bent, ordering her to sweep the compounds even as the sun melted the ground. What use is a woman who cannot fill her husband's house with the cry of a child? Chika would taunt, her voice sharp as the thorns on the agu plant. At night, when the village quieted and even the crickets had fallen asleep, Uju knelt before the shrine of Allah, goddess of fertility. Tears ran down her face like rivers in flood season. "Allah, ancestors, hear me," she sobbed. "Give me a child, even if it is one born with a bent leg or no eyes. I will love it all the same. Spare me this shame or let the earth swallow me whole." But the gods were silent as though turning their backs. Then one blessed morning the gods answered her cries. The wise woman touched Uju's belly and declared, "Life stirs within you." Uju's cry of joy woke the village. She danced barefoot through the square singing, "I am with child." The villagers celebrated with her. Palm wine flowed, goats were slaughtered, and drums pounded the rhythms of hope. Chief Obinna lifted Uju into his arms, shouting blessings to the sky. Children clapped. Women ululated. Men raised their staffs high. But under the baobab tree, Chica's heart blackened with fury. Why her? She seethed. Why not me? Jealousy, once a smoldering ember, now blazed like wildfire. Chica made a decision. Under the cloak of night, she would seek the dark powers hidden in the forest. One morning, as the first light kissed the misty hills, Chica rose from her mat with a plan burning in her chest. She wrapped her wrapper tightly, tied a black scarf around her hair, and journeyed deep into the forbidden thicket, where only fools and desperate souls dared venture. There, hidden among gnarled roots and twisting vines, lived Dibia Anya, the native doctor whose power was feared even by chiefs. Chica bowed low before the Dibia, her voice shaking. "Great One," she whispered, "I need your help. I want my husband's barren wife to bear shame so great that she will beg for death." The Dibia, his eyes milky from speaking too often with spirits, stirred a pot bubbling with dark liquids. "There is a charm," he rasped, "but it carries a price." "I will pay it," Chica hissed. The Dibia pulled from his pouch a black powder, mixed it with the blood of a black rooster, and spat into the mixture. "Give her this to drink," he said. "Her belly will swell. She will birth a child, but a cursed one. Neither man nor woman. Both at once. The village will not suffer such abomination to live. Pour it into her food," he said. "She will birth, yes, but what she brings forth will shame her." One evening she invited Uju to her hut, smiling sweetly. "Sister, let us make peace. Come and eat." Foolish Uju, heart soft as new yam, agreed. She ate the food laced with the cursed charm. At first, warmth filled her belly, but soon it turned to fire. That night the pains came, terrible pains that twisted her belly like a snake trapped in fire. The wise woman of the village, Mama Ogugwa, was called. She came carrying her bag of herbs and charms, beads clinking around her neck. But no charm, no herb, no chant could ease Uju's labor. For 3 days and 3 nights she screamed. Finally, as the rooster crowed at dawn, the child slipped into the world. There was a terrible silence. The midwife gasped and stumbled back. The baby, tiny, red, wailing with fierce strength, had the mark of both man and woman. 2 spirits in one body. Abomination. Chica screeched, pretending shock. "The gods are angry. They have cursed us." The women present fell to the ground, covering their heads. Ozo Emina, torn between love and fear, could only stare, mute as a stone. Mama Ogugwa, trembling, covered the baby quickly in cloth. "This child is neither he nor she. The village laws forbid such a thing," she whispered. The chief was summoned. The elders gathered in haste. The talking drums beat urgently across the hills. The verdict was swift, cold, and final. The child and mother must be removed, carried to the forest of forgotten souls, left to the mercy of spirits. Ozo Emina wept, but fear chained his feet. Even love has limits when tradition holds the blade. Two men, strong and grim-faced, were chosen to do the terrible work. They bound Uju's hands loosely, wrapped the newborn in cloth, and led them away at dawn. The village watched silently, mothers clutching their children, fathers muttering prayers against evil. And thus began the sorrowful journey. The two men led Uju and her crying newborn deep into the forest, past the whispering palms, past the ancient stones where the ancestors once knelt. They said no words to her. There are moments so heavy that even words collapse under their weight. The forest closed around them, thick and suffocating. The air smelled of damp earth and old magic. Cicadas screamed from the trees as though mourning the sorrow that unfolded below. When they reached the banks of the wide, swirling Aji River, they stopped. "Forgive us, Uju," one of the men, Ikena, said hoarsely, avoiding her eyes. "We are bound by the chief's command. If we disobey, the village will call us traitors. They will cut us down like weeds," added Obina, his hands trembling as he held his matchet. Uju cradled her child tightly to her chest. She had wept all her tears already. Now her voice was calm, steady, fierce as the river itself. "If you must kill me, then do so," she said. "But I beg you, I kneel before you, spare my baby. She is innocent of whatever sin you fear. Take my life, but let her live." Uju kissed her baby's forehead. She whispered a blessing into the tiny ear. Then, before the men could move, she tightened her wrapper, stepped back from them, and leapt into the river. Flash! The waters swallowed her whole. A few desperate bubbles broke the surface. Then nothing. Ikena and Obina stood frozen, matchets useless in their hands. The baby little Zara whimpered in her wrappings. The baby little Zara whimpered in her wrappings. "What now?" Obina whispered. "The gods have spoken," Ikena muttered. "We cannot shed the blood of this child. Leave her here. Let the forest and the spirits decide her fate." With heavy hearts, they placed Zara gently upon a bed of leaves near the river's edge. Then they turned and vanished into the trees, the forest swallowing their figures like smoke. Little Zara lay alone. Her cries were thin, broken, barely louder than the whine of the evening wind. Above her the stars blinked coldly. Not far from where Zara lay, a fisherman named Papa Ifani cast his nets into the river. He was a quiet man, broad-shouldered and kind, known for feeding the widows and orphans from his humble catch. That night, as he pulled his nets and hummed an old song to the river gods, he heard it. The soft cry of a baby, trembling like a bird with a broken wing. He dropped his net at once and followed the sound. There, wrapped in cloth damp with river mist, he found her. He breathed, his heart twisting in his chest. Carefully he scooped her up. She was tiny, burning with fever, her little hands grasping at the empty air. He wrapped her in his own threadbare cloak and ran as fast as his legs could carry him back to his hut. Rushing home, he placed the infant before his wife, Nena. She screamed and stumbled backward. "You wish to bring the gods' wrath upon us? Take her back." But Obina shook his head. "This child is a gift, not a curse." But Obina, his heart moved by pity, said, "No. We shall raise her in secret. She shall be our daughter, and we shall call her Zara." Reluctantly, Nena agreed. They named her Chizara. "God has answered our prayers, as they had no child of their own and have prayed to God to give them a child." They kept Zara hidden. Everyone called her Zara. Thus Zara grew in secret, like a hidden treasure buried in the earth. She was taught to be modest, to bathe alone under moonless skies, to hide her body as if it were a burning flame. And as the seasons turned, Zara blossomed into a beauty that made even the river spirits weep. Her eyes were deep pools of mystery. Her laughter, when it came, was like the sound of rainfall on thirsty soil. But always, always, the shadow of her secret followed her like a second soul. And fate, fate, that stubborn weaver, was not yet done with her. Not by a long mile. They taught her, never let anyone see you unclothed. Not even your friends. If they discover your secret, they will kill you. Zara grew radiant and wise. She hid her truth like a sacred jewel. Everyone loved her, the kids loved playing with her, and no one knew. But secrets like smoke cannot stay hidden forever. Zara grew tall and graceful like the Iroko tree, her beauty blooming quietly in the humble hut of Papa Ifani and Mama Ifani. But with beauty came danger. Everywhere she walked, boys stumbled over themselves, men turned to stare, and even the elders muttered into their colonnettes. That one, they whispered, there is something strange about her. When she was 12, Papa Ifani made a decision. We must send her away, far from the curious eyes of the village. And so with many tears they packed Zara's few belongings and sent her to Mbara Girls' College, a strict boarding school deep in the hills. It was a place known for discipline and order, ruled by a headmistress fiercer than a wounded leopard. Mbara Girls' College was a world of stiff uniforms, hard beds, and endless bells. Bells for waking, bells for eating, bells for praying, bells for studying. Zara found herself among a sea of girls, chattering, laughing, pushing, pulling. She smiled when required, bowed when expected, but always, always kept her distance. She bathed only when the other girls had left, heart like knives. But among the laughing girls, one pair of eyes watched her with something colder than amusement. Uche. Uche was a queen bee in the school, pretty, rich, and cruel. She ruled over the other girls with a silver tongue and a venomous smile. She decided she did not like Zara, her quietness, her mystery, her beauty that shone without effort. And so Uche set out to ruin her. It happened one evening after prep class. The girls were supposed to be studying, but Uche had other plans. She tiptoed across the dormitory, holding her sandals in her hand, until she reached the old wooden bathroom. She crouched by a tiny hole in the wall, one that termites had chewed over the years, and peered inside. And there, under the weak yellow light, she saw Zara bathing. At first she smiled wickedly, but then her mouth fell open, her eyes widening in shock. He saw it. The secret. Zara's hidden truth. The very thing the village had once called cursed. Chaku aho. God forbid. Uche hissed, stepping back. Her mind raced with wicked possibilities. The next morning, Uche cornered Zara behind the water tanks. Her smile was sweet as unripe mango. You want me to keep your secret? She whispered, her voice dripping poison. Then you must obey me like a dog. From now on your food is mine. Your hands will wash my clothes. If I say bark, you bark. If I say crawl, you crawl. Zara's face crumpled, but she nodded. She had no choice. Her secret was her life. From that day, Zara became Uche's shadow, silent, obedient, hollow-eyed. When lunch was served, Zara sat hungry while Uche gobbled her food. When chores were assigned, Zara did double, washing, scrubbing, ironing Uche's uniforms. One night, Uche's demands grew darker. I am hungry, she said lazily. Go to the headmistress' house. Steal some bread and meat. Bring it to me, or I will tell everyone your little secret." Zara's heart pounded. Stealing from the headmistress was like stealing from a lioness. But what choice did she have? Tears burning her eyes, she crept to the headmistress' house, heart thudding so loudly she feared it would wake the guards. He slipped through the back door, found the pantry, grabbed some bread and a handful of dried meat. Almost made it out, when a booming voice roared. The headmistress herself emerged, lantern in hand, face twisted with fury. Zara froze, the stolen food clutched to her chest. The next morning, the school gathered in the assembly hall. Girls in their brown uniforms stood shoulder to shoulder, whispering, staring. At the front, Zara stood alone, trembling, her shame heavy on her like chains. The principal's voice rang out. "Zara, you have been caught stealing from the headmistress. Speak. Why would you commit such disgrace?" Zara, her voice shaking, said, "It was Uche. Uche told me to do it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. But Uche stepped forward, face pure and innocent as an altar cloth. "She lies," Uche cried. "She is a witch. A cursed witch." She pointed a trembling finger at Zara. "This is no girl. This is an abomination. She has the body of a man and a woman. The gods curse her. She will bring death to us all." The headmistress told the matron to confirm 2 elderly ladies dragged Zara away, and they came back screaming, "She has a male and female organ," they screamed, crying, rolling on the ground. "We are cursed. She has brought a curse upon our school." The hall exploded into chaos. Girls screamed. Teachers shouted. Some made the sign of the cross. Others ran for holy water. The headmistress' face turned pale as ashes. She spat the words, "Get your things and leave, before your curse consumes this school." And so Zara, once hidden treasure, once beloved child, was thrown out like a leper. She walked out of the school gates, barefoot, head bowed, the world crumbling around her. And thus Zara began her journey into the wider world. A world that feared her. A world that would both break and shape her. But the gods were not done weaving her story.